so what this also means is that if you are somebody who is working on your source collection documents right now, you would want to stop that. You can continue doing that afterwards. Everybody should be on pace with me and setting up your annotated bibliography. Our goal is to create the works cited for our paper, and then from there we're going to create our annotated bibliography. So once you have your Google Drive open, you will want to open up the document that has all of the links that you've been saving, and that has, it should also have some citations from ProQuest. Even if you have just one, then that's fine. Once you're in Canvas, on your other tab, you'll want to scroll down to week 10. Okay, so again, we have two tabs open. One tab is for my Google Drive. In my Google Drive, I have the document open that's been housing my links and my ProQuest citations. My other tab is open to Canvas, and I've scrolled down to week 10 here. I would encourage you, those of you that have your phones out, to go ahead and set those aside. I'm going to be going through everything step by step, and you won't want to miss it, okay? So all of the resources that you need in order to succeed on this assignment are posted here for you in Canvas. I am recording this right now, so I will post this to Canvas also when it's done. I have no idea if the audio will catch or whatever, but we will see. A couple things that I want to point out to you. First, the annotated bibliography is an overview and defense of the sources that you've chosen to use for your paper. So on your source collection document, on this page right here, this big box right in the middle is what you're going to be using mainly for this, for the annotated bibliography, okay? This section right here. That's where you have summarized and critiqued the source that you're using. The first document, you can open these if you want and follow along with me, or you can just look up here. This one, the guide, gives you the individual instructions for the assignment, okay? So this top part right here just talks about the formatting. So it needs to be MLA format, including the citation. And for each source, so how many sources should you guys have minimum? 6. So for each source, you are going to write an annotation. So how many annotations should you have? Okay, so an annotation is a paragraph that consists of 3 parts: a summary, an evaluation, and a connection, okay? So you summarize the source, you tell me what it's about, you evaluate it and critique it, that's that rhetorical analysis, where you're talking about the credibility and reliability of the source and the evidence that they've used, logos, and then you are connecting it. You're telling me how it's usable for your research, which sub-questions it's answering, essentially what role it's playing in your paper. Each annotation, so each paragraph, needs to be no more than 300 words and no less than 150. So somewhere between 150 and 300, okay? That's the gist of it. This section down here, and the color coding is for this, one of the samples that I have to show you. You do not need to color code yours, okay? That's just for my instructional purposes. So the summary section of your annotation is where you're just telling us what the source is about. You're telling me whether or not it was informative, whether or not it was argumentative, the type of information that was in there, the findings, if it was a research study, that kind of stuff. You're essentially trying to answer those 4 questions there. The second section, and these 2 make up the bulk of the annotation. The second section here is that rhetorical analysis, where you're talking about the credibility of the source, you're talking about the type of evidence the source uses, whether that evidence is effective, factual, all of that, whether it's anecdotal, those types of things. Please do not write a sentence per question. You should not be trying to do that. You want to try to combine as much of this information into 1 or 2 sentences as possible. For these first 2 sections, you should be writing in third person. So not be using I, we, me, us, our, or you. And all of this is here for you. The third and smallest section of the annotation or paragraph is the connection piece. This is where you are talking about the usability. How do you plan to use this in your paper? What is it doing for you? Does it address or support an argument you're making? Which argument? Is it addressing a counter argument? All of that. And this is very minimal. Maybe just 1 to 2 sentences. Down here, the formatting of the document is detailed, although we will do much of this together today. This tells you about the spacing, the font, your header, your heading, title, all of that is there for your reference. Okay, so if you need to refer back to that, this lives in Canvas for you. Okay, now if we go back to the week 10 module, now keeping those color codes in mind, we're going to jump down here to the first student sample. This file right here, the middle one that I'm skipping, is the rubric. I would encourage you to look at it, but for now, for time's sake, I'm going to skip it. So here on this student sample, you will see that there is both a good annotated bibliography example on page 1, and if you scroll down to page 2, here is a bad example. Essentially what I'm saying is this is not passing, and this is passing, okay? Now, I'm not going to take the time to read this. You can read through it on your own. My goal today is to focus on the formatting. But what you can see here is everything that yours needs to have. The color coding here, which again, you do not need to do, matches the instructional guide and shows you how you can answer those questions. This, along with the other student sample I'm going to show you, should be open. You should have them open on a tab and be referencing them as you're writing your own. And these are good to help with knowing how to write, what to say, all of those things. Okay, you guys with me so far? Any questions? Okay, now the better example that I have for you that I think you should look at, I have both for you in digital and physical form. And it's this one right here that says AB student sample. If you look over there on the whiteboard, there are 3 stacks of green papers. It's all the same annotated bibliography, just printed out for you. So you're welcome to help yourselves to those and check them out, if you will, throughout the period and each day if you want to look at those. But the same thing is housed here digitally for you. This is a really strong example. The student did receive an A, full points for their annotated bibliography. So you can, you can use this to mimic what you should be doing for yours. Okay. So, and we're going to set this up in just a second, but you kind of get an idea of what yours should look like. Okay. All right, the last thing that I have for you here in this module, I posted this a couple weeks ago, but it's here for you again. If you forget how to create your citations at any point today or how to format things, you can come back here and follow this guide to help you do that. Okay, any questions so far? All right, so next, close that out. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to talk about the ethos section of your source collection form. So if you guys could look at your source collection forms, because I've noted this repeatedly on multiple documents, and it was the question, it's the second question in this big box. You guys were really great at addressing the perspective, not so great at addressing the credibility. Remember when we talked about ethos, we identified 3 C's that could help us identify whether a speaker was trustworthy. That was competence, caring, and character. The one most relevant to the majority of your sources is going to be competence. Are they qualified? And that was kind of the main question that I wrote over and over. So you might have in blue or pink writing on yours, is the speaker or author qualified, and how do you know? Okay. Now you can combine that when you're talking about the perspective. So it might sound something like Dr. Andrews has been a psychologist for 6 years, has a PhD in psychology, and approaches this study through that psychological perspective. Okay, so you can combine those things. It doesn't need to be super wordy or anything like that, but you do need to address this. If you don't, you will lose points in that particular section. So the way the rubric is set up is the annotation is broken into 3 separate grades. I'm grading you on how well you addressed the ethos, the logos, and the connection or usability of the source. Okay? All right. So make sure you guys pay attention to that. Now we're going to move on to putting everything together. So what you guys are going to need is, you should already have open your doc that has all of your sources. So it might look something like this, where you have some links, and then you also have a ProQuest citation or 2. Okay. If you don't have this, wherever your links are stored, you want to work on this right now. And you can go ahead and title this Works Cited. We're going to copy and paste this later next week to our essay document. Okay. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we have to take these links and turn them into citations. Okay. I would encourage you, before we do that, let's go ahead and format this document to make sure that it's in the right format. I'm guessing most of you are in Arial size 11 and single spaced. So I'm going to highlight or Control A to select everything that's on this page. I'm going to go up to my font. I'm going to choose Times New Roman. And then I'm going to go to the size up here and make sure I choose 12. Okay. Now, again, I'm taking the time to do this because, unfortunately, part of MLA format is just paying attention to these details. So we have to get this right. Keeping everything highlighted, I'm going to go to my spacing. So you might have to click these 3 vertical dots up here. And I'm going to choose line and paragraph spacing. It's the 2 arrows going in opposite directions to the left of 3 horizontal lines. I'm going to click on that, and I want to make sure that I'm using double spacing. Okay. Does anybody need me to repeat any of those steps? Okay. Now, this ProQuest one is already pretty much in the format that it needs to be. Okay, so I'm going to focus on these linked ones. So what I'm going to do is come up here to my toolbar up at the top where it says Tools. I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to click on Citations. Everybody should be doing this along with me, not just watching. You guys are creating yours also. It's going to open up this sidebar over here. Okay, and this is where all of our citations are going to be created and housed. Double check that yours defaulted to MLA 8th edition. So that's what it should say up here in this drop down. And then we're going to click the blue plus button for Add Citation Source. Okay, so go ahead and click that. Now under source type, it defaults to book. You're going to need to change that. So in the drop down, choose website instead of book. Now this will not work for your ProQuest documents. It will only work for your links. So we're going to click that. I'm going to come over here to my source. If I just click on my source, this little preview will pop up and I can click the copy link icon, which are the two overlapping rectangles. So I'm going to copy that link. And then down here in that sidebar under citation tools where it says search with a URL, I'm just going to right click and paste that there. Okay. Are we good so far? Okay. Then I'm going to come down here below that and click the blue search button. Now, what I want to do here is I want to double check that the information is correct. There are some times where the author is misidentified, or there are multiple authors and only one is listed, or whatever the case might be. So you just want to double check that the title is correct, the publication, the author's names, all of that. If it's good to go, then click continue at the bottom. If there's anything that you need to change, you can do it here. So for example, there was somebody first period where it didn't identify both authors. You can just click add contributor here and identify and type in the other author's name. If your title is in all caps, you need to change that. MLA wants us to only capitalize the first letter of each word, so long as it's not a preposition or conjunction. But everything else should be pretty good to go. Do you have questions? Okay. So if you're good to go, and if some things are missing, that's okay. I know some of you couldn't find authors or there weren't authors on a website. That is okay. Just leave it blank. Okay. You have to create the citation in the ProQuest website. It won't. It will create the citation for you. It's creating the thing that we're creating right now. So that's what this is in my document. If you have, so you am I correct that you only have ProQuest? Right, then you're not doing this right now. So if you only have ProQuest, I mean, it's still good practice for you to know how to do this so you can do it for other things. But I'm going to come to how to format this after I'm done with this part. Okay, so here I'm going to click add citation source once everything is good to go. And you will see that it created the citation over here in this sidebar. Okay, this will stay here until you delete it. So you can close this out at any point and reopen it. It will keep these here. Okay. Now, what I want you guys to do is go through, and for all of your non-ProQuest sources, I want you to create all of your citations. So you're going to go to not insert. You're going to go to add citation source up at the top and just keep repeating until you have all of them. Oh, you can't.
Wait, the author's name is all caps.
Yeah, anything that's all caps, change it to upper and lower. Would encourage you to make sure that you're doing this now. I doubt this is something you'll remember, especially if you've never done it before. This way you can get the practice and I can help if you have any issues. No. I mean, you can if you want, but every time you do that, it creates a new title. So I think it's
You say it's
problematic.
fine that it doesn't have the proper name, right?
Correct.
So we're going a few minutes. How are we going to do? Oh, you know, one.
Wait, that doesn't count to go to school. It doesn't count to go to a different school.
You didn't have to say it.
It's a joke, it's a joke.
Hey, it's a joke. So, Cal.
Okay, I'm gonna give you guys a couple more minutes.
They got it.
Even though it's not good,
Yeah, probably.
no system. We'll probably have a sister, huh, man?
Kind of, not really. This
Even like
needs to be
a
over here. There should only be one. I would encourage you to refrain from clicking insert works cited. You might want to Control Z or undo if you've done that, but I'll show you what you can do. It's kind of problematic. Okay, I'm going to move on. If you have more sources that you need to do, you can do those later, but I'm going to show you the next step here to finalize this. So ideally you would have 6 sources. Now I don't need these links anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and delete them. You can probably do the same. Okay, so I just deleted my links. I have my ProQuest source here on my doc, and I have my other 2 over here. Now here, I'll show you what the issue is really quick. So if I click Insert Works Cited, it adds this extra title here, and now everything, I have to move things around because everything has to be alphabetized. So rather than doing that, I'm just going to insert each individually. So all of your sources need to be alphabetized by the first letter of the first word. It does not matter if the first word is an author's name or if it's the title of the document. It does not matter. The first letter of the first word is what we need to alphabetize by. So my first source right here, I'm going to copy it over here from my sidebar. Last name is Heller, which comes before N. So I'm going to click up here and I'm going to paste without formatting. So that way it goes into Times New Roman 12. My other source over here, again, I'm going to highlight individually. This is how I prefer to do it. If you prefer to just click the Insert Works Cited button and reformat from there, by all means, do what works for you. I'm going to copy this. S goes after N. So I'm going to click here and paste. Okay. Now I don't need this sidebar anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and close that out. Again, I can go back to those sources anytime.
So, yeah.
It does, but then when you put it over there, if you have other sources, it doesn't take those into account. So like if you had your ProQuest ones already on there, so you could do that and then just remove, cut and paste the ProQuest source. That would work. Okay, so a couple things that I want to fix on my formatting. So everybody should at least have one source on this document at this point, whether that's a ProQuest source or a non-ProQuest source. You see how on mine I have this extra space between the title and the first source? We need to get rid of that. In MLA, there should only be one double space from the beginning of the essay to the end. I should never be hitting enter more than once, okay? So it should look like this. Your title should also say works cited. Each of these is a work. There's more than one, so it needs to be plural. Both the W and the C need to be capitalized, okay? Now, if you've done all of this correctly, this is what yours looks like, something along these lines. The last thing we need to do is do the hanging indent. You might already have it, but I want to show you how to do it anyways. So that way, if you need to do it another time for a different class, you know what to do. So I'm going to start by Control A, selecting all or highlighting all of the text. Okay. Then I'm going to go up to Format up at the top. Align and indent. Indentation options. So it's all there for you. Get to this spot right here. Okay, once you're there, go ahead and click it. From this dialog box at the bottom, it says Special Indent. Where it says None, click that and choose Hanging. A hanging indent is the opposite of a regular paragraph. The first line is indented. A hanging indent is the opposite. Each subsequent line after the first is indented. So click on Hanging. Make sure that it says 0.5. It should. Sometimes it says 0.3 or 0.1. And then click Apply. And what you should have is something that looks like this. So highlight everything. Format, Align and Indent, Indentation Options. Under Special, choose Hanging, and then click Apply. Okay? Does anybody need me to repeat any of those steps before I move on to the annotated bibliography? Okay.
Hanging and then?
You gotta highlight that.
Oh, everything? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, except the title.
Oh.
Okay. Bless you. So we want to keep this document for our final paper. So don't delete this. What we're going to do is we're going to make a copy. So go to File, Make a Copy, and we're going to change this file name. Everybody's file name needs to match what I'm going to type right now. So you're going to type Annotated Bib P3 and then your last name. If you want to do your first and last name, that's fine, but it should look like that. So Annotated space Bib space P3 space your last name.
And then we'll make a copy.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Hi. Can I call you right back? Okay. Bye. Okay, we're good here. So make a copy. Okay, beautiful. So now we're going to go up to the right and click Share. You guys are all going to share this with me with Edit Access. If you've shared a doc with me before, which you should have, it should pop up, but it's Nikki and KKI.Serenas at cnusd.k12.ca.us. I guess all the EDUs were gone. Okay, so if you typed it in right, my little picture will pop up. You're going to click on that. Over here in this right box, it should say Editor, so make sure that's correct. And then if all that's good to go, then click Send. Does anybody need to repeat any steps so far? Or writing? Okay. Oops. Okay, now we need to format this one for our annotated bibliography. I'm going to show you how to do that, and then you'll have the rest of the period to do what you need to do. Hopefully that's writing your annotations, but those of you that need to research will do that. Okay, so first let's change our title. Let's start with that. So highlight works cited. We're going to change that to annotated bibliography. Make sure you spell it and capitalize it correctly. If your original document was properly formatted, you should all already be in Times New Roman size 12 with double spacing. Okay. Once you have that, we're going to click enter one time. Your cursor's probably still in the center. It should be. We need to get that over to the left. So up here, I'm going to click my 3 vertical dots. I'm going to go to my alignment options and I'm going to choose left align. Okay, then my cursor should jump over to the left-hand side of my document, right above my first source. Then I'm going to type inquiry question, colon, and then find your inquiry question probably from that shared doc. You want to copy that and make sure you choose paste without formatting because the font on that other Google Doc is different than the font in this one. Or maybe you just know your inquiry question and can type it in. Some of you, it looks like you're still in Arial, size 11. You want to make sure you change that. The easiest thing to do is just Control A, select all, or highlight all of the text, and go to Times New Roman, size 12. So this is what everybody's document should look like so far. Some of you also have additional spacing below your title. You want to get rid of that. Okay, so you should only have a single double space between each line. Between everything. No more. Two more things to do here. Does anybody need me to repeat anything before I move on? Okay. I'm going to come up here and put my cursor in front of the A in front of annotated bibliography because I need to add we're going to start with the heading. Okay. So I'm going to hit enter one time, move my cursor back up. It should be in the center above annotated bibliography. I need to get that over to the left. So I'm going to go back to those alignment options and choose left align. And my cursor should now be over on the left above annotated bibliography. Now we need that 4-piece heading. So that is your first and last name, my name, course, ELA 3, English 11, English 3, I don't care. And then the due date, which for you guys is the 14th. And that's in day, month, year format. So 14 March 2024 with no punctuation. Everything, just control. Okay, so a couple things you want to check too. Sometimes when you copy and paste from ProQuest or somewhere else, one or two or both of these things might happen. You might have some of your font that's a light gray or a dark charcoal gray color. Everything needs to be black. So the easiest thing to do is to Control A, select all, go to the little A up there and click black. Okay, the color black. The other thing is when you copy and paste, and this is just good for you guys to know in general. So what happens sometimes when you copy and paste is there will be a light gray background behind whatever you've copied and pasted. So the easiest thing for you to do is to Control A, go to this little highlighter up here that's next to the A, and click on None. And this will get rid of all of those extra highlights, okay? So this is where we should all be right now. There's one last thing that we need to do. Okay, up at the top of my document, I'm gonna double click up there. It's gonna open up my header. Now, my header has to be over here on the right side, so I'm gonna go back up to those alignment options and I'm gonna choose Right Align this time, Right Align. And my cursor should jump over to the right-hand side. Now, do not type in 1. If you do that, every page will have a 1. So instead, you need to go to Insert, scroll down to Page Numbers, and you're going to choose this top left icon where it has the page numbers in the top right corner. Okay, you're going to click on that. Boom, there's a 1. Now, if you notice, my font is probably the same as yours. The header is not technically part of the document, so we need to highlight this and change it to Times New Roman size 12 to match the rest of the document. So highlight your little 1 that's there and then change it to Times New Roman size 12, okay? And then get your cursor onto the left side of the 1. Once your cursor's on the left side, you're going to type your last name. Make sure you put a space between the last letter of your last name and the page number. Once yours looks like that, please don't type last name either, like put your last name. Just click out of there and you should be good to go. So everybody should have this general setup so far. If you're here, you're already close to having an A, okay? So you're good to go. All you got to do is not mess with the formatting. Oh, I'm so sorry. This has to do with my dad. Hang on. Hello? This is her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I think insert my ProQuest intro.
Dude, I can't even add a header. My dog's broken.
Yeah.
Do the first 2 are ProQuest.
Okay, all right, perfect. No, not at this point.
Oh, okay.
I know. Oh, mine's wrong. Oh.
Because my book thanks so much. Okay, you too. Bye.
It's not letting me add a header.
Huh?
It's not letting me add a header.
Okay, give me a second. Let me just do this last part and then I'll help you. Okay, so last thing that I want to show you is where you need to start your annotations. So in between each of these, so I'm going to go to my first citation, which is right here. You don't have to highlight it. I'm just trying to show you, okay? I'm going to hit enter once and I'm going to tab and I'm going to start typing my annotation there when I'm ready. Okay. And that's it. So for each of these, it's just real repetitive after this. I just go underneath each citation. I would start personally by just copying whatever I have in this section right here. I would get that drafted, get all that moved from paper to digital, and then later go back and revise. Okay. So this is where you're going to start each annotation. So you should end up with 6 of those, 6 sources, 6 paragraphs. Okay. Questions?
We need 2 done today.
You don't have to have 2 done today. I'm just trying to keep you guys on pace. So whatever you do, you want to make sure that by the time I see you Thursday, you have just the last one to do. That way you can get that one done and use the rest of the time to revise and edit. Okay. This is due Thursday before you leave class. So whatever you can do to get yourself in that position is great. So those of you that have all your source collection docs done, you're good. Start working on your annotated bibliography. Those of you that do not have your source collection docs done, that is your priority, and that's what you want to be doing right now. Did you share it?
How do you
No, oh, okay. No, go to file. Scroll down to page 7.
I don't like it. I think it's good. Like, I don't like it when I do like bread. Like, it's just too hot.
What happened?
I don't like being all my friends. It's because all my friends are like it. So it's like that. So it's like, I was like, hey, what? You get